Welcome back to Movie Moshow. Today we are going to review the science fiction mystery film, Chronicles of Narnia, Prince Caspian. If you like our content, don't forget to like and subscribe. We post multiple times daily. Spoilers ahead. The Lady Protectress Prunaprismia gives birth to a son in a dark and foreboding castle on a clear night in Narnia during a lunar eclipse. General Glazelle, who is delivering the good news to Prunaprismia's husband, Lord Protector Miraz, is located down the hallway. The youthful Prince Caspian, the legitimate ruler of Narnia and the 10th in line to Caspian I, the Conqueror, who led his Telmarine soldiers to invade and conquer Narnia hundreds of years before, is then told by Miraz to carry out earlier instructions and kill him. Dr. Cornelius, Caspian's devoted and obedient professor, however, will not permit that to happen. He quickly drags Caspian out of his sleep and leads him into his armoire, the back of which opens into a secret passageway, clearly alluding to an armoire on another world that did the exact same thing. As Caspian is about to lock the armoire door behind him, Glazelle and several men brandishing crossbows storm in. The men only manage to fill the air with goose feathers as they fire their crossbows into Caspian's empty bed. Then, with his weapon fastened, Cornelius hastily helps Caspian get ready for a lengthy ride. The last gift Cornelius offers Caspian is an elaborate ivory horn with the instruction to use it only in times of extreme necessity and the warning that everything you know is about to change. Glazelle and his summary execution detail pursue Caspian as he flees the palace and enters the Shuddering Woods on a horse. Caspian's pursuers do not want to follow him into the Shuddering Woods at night, as Cornelius had warned him to anticipate. Then, after hitting with a hanging tree branch, Caspian loses control of his mount and is attacked by two unknown creatures, two dwarfs, one with red hair, Peter Dinklage, and the other with black hair, Warwick Davis. When the black-haired dwarf approaches, Caspian snatches the horn and blows a long, loud note before the dwarf knocks him out of his senses. As they draw near, the redhead notices Glazelle's detail, draws his sword, and goes to meet them, ordering his partner to take care of him. While Susan Pevensey is attempting to evade a schoolboy who is trying to start up a conversation when her sister Lucy summons her to the Strand Underground station in 1942 London, the peal of that horn travels across the dimensions. Inside, on the platform, Edmund jumps into the fight to help Peter before two guardsmen arrive, whistles blaring, shouting at everyone to break it up. And act your age. As the four sit down together on a platform bench, Peter, William Moseley, complains angrily about being treated like a child, he who had been a high king just a year earlier. Lucy calls out, screaming that something has pinched her, and Peter and Edmund suspect one another of pinching one another. Edmund points out that they are still children and that Susan simply advised them to get used to living in England. Susan now understands that magic is in action. They are all holding hands, and as an underground train passes, the walls of the tube begin to crumble and then vanish, leaving the four people standing in a small cavern next to a sandy beach under a bright sky. The kids play in the shallow water after taking off their outer coats from their school clothes, and Edmund then worries where they are. Edmund cannot remember that Narnia had ruins in it, but Peter is certain that they are back in Narnia. He is staring up at a clearly visible castle that was formerly perched high above the beach on a point. They all eventually understand that these are the ruins of Cair Paravel, where they once jointly reigned after fighting a significant battle, after climbing the promontory and exploring the ruins. Glazelle and his forces make their way back to the Telmarine castle after a sortie, carrying a body on a horse. Miraz is eager to confirm the death of Caspian, but Glazelle stops him and reveals that he has brought back a creature of a completely different kind, the red-headed dwarf who had challenged Glazelle in the Shuddering Woods while on foot and armed only with a sword. In reality, it was more like a long knife for a human. Lord Sepespian, Damien Alcazar, asserting that Miraz is not a man to be trusted, opens the contentious council meeting. Lord Scythley, Simon Andreu, Donnan, Predrag Bjelic, and Sepespian level sharp charges at Miraz once he enters the room and apologizes for being late, claiming that Caspian is absent on the very night that Miraz's son was born. Miraz responds with a convenient victim. Caspian has been kidnapped by Narnians, he claims. He commands Glazelle to lead in the Red Dwarf while it is bound and gagged as proof, and he later claims that the Narnians, who the Telmarines had believed to be extinct, have been slowly reproducing while waiting for a chance to attack the occupying Telmarines. Then Miraz boldly declares that he will find Caspian and finish what our ancestors began, even if it means felling every tree in the Shuddering Wood. Edmund discovers evidence of an artillery barrage at Cair Paravel, the first indication that Narnia was in fact invaded hundreds of years prior. Further investigation by the kids reveals that the royal treasure room is still intact. The Pevensies discover 4 trunks with all of their royal clothes, original weaponry, and other accessories with the help of Edmund's new electric torch. However, Susan's horn is missing. Realizing that every friend they had on Narnia has already passed away makes Lucy a little sad. The red lion on Peter's silver shield is ramping up and facing the audience as he says, "The 4 of us must find out what has been happening on, and 2, Narnia in what is now obviously an absence of centuries." Peter then buckles on his sword. They don't have much time to look. 2 Telmarine troops are rowing a small wooden rowboat as it approaches the mouth of the great river. They are going to dump the red dwarf into the water while he is inside when an arrow suddenly buries itself in their boat. The soldiers hurl the dwarf into the water as Susan cries, "Drop him." Susan shoots one of the soldiers, forcing the other to abandon their boat as Peter and Edmund hurry to pull the dwarf out. The dwarf, named Trumpkin, is initially unappreciative of them until he realizes that he is actually speaking to the kings and queens of old. As an example, Peter permits the dwarf to engage in a brief fight with Edmund. While it takes him some time to regain his skills, Edmund easily disarms Trumpkin, dispelling any remaining uncertainty. He exclaims, "Perhaps that horn did work after all." Caspian awakens in the shuddering woods and hears the talking badger truffle hunter, Ken Stott, and the black-haired dwarf Nickabrick debating Caspian's future. When Caspian tries to combat Nickabrick, Truffle Hunter gently puts an end to their argument and demands that Caspian identify himself, to which Caspian complies. Truffle Hunter is impressed by his narrative that he is fleeing from his uncle, who is undoubtedly a usurper, but Nickabrick is not quite as impressed. Truffle Hunter stops Caspian as he is about to leave and explains the exact purpose of the ivory horn he was carrying. Miraz confronts Cornelius angrily at the castle with the bright red arrow found in the corpse of one of his troops and inquires about Queen Susan's horn. Cornelius is aware that his life has been forfeited, but he also recognizes that Caspian has acted just as he anticipated. He says aloud that the Narnians thought it might call forth the 4 kings and queens. Evidently unsatisfied, Miraz has Cornelius detained. Upon witnessing this, Lord Sepespian engages Glazelle in a downright mutinous conversation. However, Miraz doesn't give Sepespian enough time to reflect about such things. He gives Glazelle the go-ahead to go to Baruna with a number of troops to support Sepespian's forces, who are now constructing a bridge over the great river. Miraz adds, "We must find Caspian before they do," and then informs Sepespian that he needs to learn some classified history. As Trumpkin and the 4 kids boat upstream, he informs them that the trees have stopped talking, Aslan abandoned them along with the kids, and that many of the talking beasts of Narnia are no longer able to speak. Trumpkin actually has to slay a big bear that nearly kills Lucy. Caspian, Nickabrick, and Truffle Hunter set out to locate additional Narnians in the shuddering woods. Caspian is rushing, despite Truffle Hunter's preference for him to wait for the old kings and queens. And when Truffle Hunter detects a Telmarine search party, the 3 have no choice but to flee for their lives. However, before the Telmarines can kill them, they themselves are killed by a creature that is too small to see and clearly attacks from underneath, doing lethal damage. Peter persists on leading the group down a trail that Trumpkin claims is a dead end in a different area of the forest. He is actually Search. Thank you for watching and don't forget to like and subscribe.